It started over dinner. Just another quiet night. Takeout boxes on the table, muted TV in the background, the kind of silence that fills every corner of a house because no one really knows what to talk about anymore. Dad had his tablet set up by his plate, scrolling through his emails. Mom was halfway through her second glass of wine. And me? I was proud. For the first time in a while, I actually had good news. So, I began, trying not to sound too eager. Remember how you two always said I should save more? Be more responsible? Mom gave a half smile. I remember nagging you, yes. Well, I sort of took your advice, like seriously this time. Dad didn't look up. Meaning what? Meaning, I said, sitting forward. I figured out how to invest. Crypto, some stock groups, minor stuff, but I got in touch with this private trading community online. You'd be impressed. They're super selective. I had to run a security check, even send a few personal verifications. That got his attention. Slowly, he looked up from the tablet. What kind of verifications? Basic ones, I said quickly. They needed proof I wasn't a bot or scammer. Name, email, location. Then there was something weird. They asked me to confirm a reference word for identity protection. A kind of password. Said it was for security lineage. Mom frowned. Security lineage? Yeah, they said it's like a trace signature for trust networks. I told them I didn't have one, and they said most families do, even if you don't realize it. Something inherited. So I figured I'd make my own. What word did you use? Dad asked, calm but sharper now. Oh, not my own, I said. They said to use one that connects to family, so I tried what was on the old USB drive from Grandma's stuff, the one labeled Airlock, remember? Their heads snapped up at the same time. Dad's voice dropped an octave. What word exactly? I hesitated. You remember that weird text file she had, the one that wouldn't open unless you used that odd password hint? Whispered 12? Mom went pale. You opened that? Not really, I said. I just used the password for the online form. It worked instantly. They said it verified my connection. Her glass hit the table so hard it cracked. You gave them that password? The room went silent. I blinked, confused. Okay, you're freaking me out. What's going on? It's just a word. Dad stood. His chair screeched backward against the floor. Who did you give access to? What? Who? He thundered. Mom's voice cracked. You don't understand. That word? Where did you see it? The file name. Did you read it? I shook my head, every muscle tightening. No, I didn't open anything. I swear. It was on a notepad next to Grandma's old flash drive. It said, access level, whispered 12, family only. I thought it was sentimental. Mom pressed both hands to her mouth. Oh my God. Dad turned away, breathing hard, muttering words I couldn't catch. What is happening? I demanded. His voice came low, almost shaking. That password was never meant to be online. Why not? Because your grandmother didn't invent it, he said finally. Someone gave it to her. She just passed it down. It isn't just a word, it's a key. And now whoever you sent it to, they don't have access to information. They have access to us. The sound of my father's voice still hung in the air when everything went quiet. The kind of silence that feels physical, like someone just dropped the atmosphere out of the room. Mom was shaking. I mean visibly shaking. The hand that had knocked over her wine glass now clutched the edge of the table so hard her knuckles went white. Okay, I said slowly, feeling the tremor in my own voice. You two need to stop acting like I detonated something. It's a password. That's all. Dad turned, eyes like glass. You didn't detonate something, he said. You opened something. I gestured, frustrated. What does that even mean? He didn't answer. He was already halfway to the living room, pulling drawers open, rummaging through the desk until he found his old laptop, the black one with the broken hinge he'd locked away years ago. Mom followed, still muttering under her breath, her words ricocheting between prayers and curses. I followed them both, heart pounding loud enough that I barely heard the rain start against the windows outside. Dad slammed the laptop down on the coffee table, pressed the power button, and waited. The screen glowed a dull blue before flickering to life. Then, for the first time since I could remember, he typed fast, precise, angry. Dad, I said, stepping closer, will someone explain what's going on? He didn't look at me. Do you still have that flash drive? The one from Grandma? Yes, he barked. It's upstairs, in my desk. He stopped typing, jaw tightening. Go get it, now. Mom grabbed my wrist before I could move. Don't touch it. Why not? Because, she whispered, lowering her voice, it doesn't belong to you. Not anymore. Dad slammed his hand against the desk. It's already too late for careful, Alice. That snapped something in me. Too late for what? You're both treating this like a crime scene. Dad took a deep breath and closed his eyes. Sit down. I did. Mostly because I didn't know what else to do. Finally, he turned the screen toward me. On it was a directory. No labels, just timestamps. The earliest dated back to 2008. He clicked one. It opened a document filled with strings of characters, encrypted gibberish, random symbols and numbers. This, he said, is the file your grandmother called Airlock. She said it was her digital will, a backup of important things, birth records, deeds, property signatures. I nodded slowly. Okay. He leaned closer. It's not. She lied, Mom said softly, almost to herself. Dad nodded. After she passed, I tried to open it. Every attempt created secondary hidden folders, like a trail that resisted deletion. I sent the drive to 3 cybersecurity analysts. All 3 came back with the same response. The data wasn't standard code. It behaved like live software, and it needed something to wake it up. I frowned. The password? He nodded again, eyes distant. Whispered 12. Mom made a quiet sound, like a sob caught halfway. The last night before she died, she told me to never speak that phrase to anyone. Said if it ended up online, we wouldn't be the ones controlling what came next. I swallowed. Come next? What's that supposed to… Dad cut me off. You need to understand something. This isn't a normal leak. The airlock system was built decades ago. Old Cold War technology rebranded for civilian use. It's what we now call genetic encryption. Each password was tethered to a bloodline. The phrase whispered 12 verified not identity, but ancestry. My mouth went dry. You mean, it knows we're related? It knew, he said grimly. Now it knows who else is tied to us. He spun the laptop around again, typing commands faster than my eyes could track. On screen, a red bar blinked. Access relay initiated. Confirm authorized lineage. Owen, Mom said quietly, can you stop it? He didn't answer. A progress bar appeared that filled halfway before freezing. Then, lines of new text scrolled automatically, each one tagged with locations. Denver, Phoenix, Warsaw, Seoul, London. Each one appeared beside a new line of code that read, Access request. Echo family node found. I leaned forward. What's it doing? Branching, Dad said. It's replicating the key through every genetic entry with our surname attached anywhere in the digital family registry. Banking networks, identity archives. That online group you mentioned. They have it now too. I felt sick. I didn't know it could do that. I thought it was symbolic. You thought wrong, he snapped. It's a circuit built to recognize its inheritors and lock their data together. Mom rose from the couch, clutching her arms around herself. You said that program was scrubbed after the 90s. It was, Dad said. But she kept a copy, and now it's awake. I stared at them both, the same sentence looping through my mind like static. You gave who access to what? Lightning flashed outside, throwing white light across the walls. For half a second I thought I saw something on the living room TV, even though it was turned off. The faint outline of a number 12 glowing against the black screen. Then a new sound, a chime, from Dad's laptop. The cursor blinked, paused, and then spelled out words on its own. Welcome back, House whispered. Your network is active. Memory unlock sequence begins at dawn. Dad slammed the lid shut, every muscle in his face tightening. Mom's voice broke. What does that mean? He looked at me, the kind of look that drains every ounce of blood from your body. It means whatever your grandmother started didn't end with her, he said. And at sunrise, whoever you connected to will have what she died keeping hidden. I didn't sleep that night. Every few minutes I caught myself checking my phone, expecting another message, another alert, something telling me the system I'd triggered had decided to finish what it started. But no new notifications came. Instead, Silence pressed against the walls like a storm waiting for permission. By 3 in the morning, Dad's laptop had been locked back in the basement safe. Mom sat curled on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, whispering quietly as if praying. I couldn't stand the waiting anymore. "Tell me," I said finally, sitting across from her. "Tell me what Grandma did." She didn't look up right away. "Your father should be the one—" "I'm the one who unleashed it," I said sharply. "So start with why a simple password can wake up a network that knows my DNA." Mom stared into the dark for a moment. "You remember how Grandma used to say our family survived every generation by staying quiet? How she kept those old composition books, full of names and sketches of people you'd never met?" "Yeah," I said. "The family tree diaries." "Not diaries," she whispered. "Ledgers." The word sank like a stone between us. "She wasn't keeping track of birthdays or marriage lines," Mom continued. "She was keeping track of agreements. People who'd sworn to protect certain information across generations. They called themselves the Whispered Houses." "Plural?" "There were 12 of them once," she said. 12 families scattered across the world, each responsible for one part of the same map. A key split into bloodlines." I frowned. "A physical map?" "No. A code," she answered softly. "Something built long before digital encryption existed. A way of hiding a formula so dangerous that it was safer if no one person could ever reassemble it. It was passed orally until the late 20th century, when the first house digitized their share. That was the beginning of airlock." I sat there, the old word now sounding heavier, more deliberate. "So Grandma had one piece of this key?" Mom nodded. "She inherited it after the Cold War. Her brother was killed protecting it. Or maybe silenced. I never got the full story. She always said that if the houses were ever reunited, we'd be shown the thing we were protecting." "What exactly were they protecting?" "I don't know," she admitted. "And maybe no one ever was supposed to. But it didn't stop people from trying." She reached for the small wooden box on the mantel, the one that had always been there, the one Dad never let us open. She pressed her thumb against an invisible latch and slid it toward me. Inside were photographs, yellowed newspaper cuttings, and one folded letter. The top photo stopped me cold. Grandma stood with 6 other people in front of an old facility. Gray building, no signage, just the shadow of military vehicles behind them. Each person had a symbol drawn over their heart, handwritten in faded black ink. Next to Grandma's, a number. 12. I picked up the letter. The paper trembled in my hand. October 15th, 1997. If you're reading this, the seal has been broken. It means someone in House Whispered has reactivated the lineage key. I can't stop what follows, but I can warn you. We thought we were locking away a weapon. We were wrong. The weapon learned to wait. Do not connect to the network. Do not speak the phrase. Above all, do not share it with strangers. The moment the airlock recognizes new blood, it reawakens its search. And once all 12 houses answer, it will finish the sequence. Forgive me for choosing legacy over mercy. MR. I flipped the letter over. The back was covered in rows of numbers like coordinates. But in the bottom right corner, one line was written large enough to stand out. Time since last activation, 28 years. Possible next activation window, 2025. The room seemed to tilt. That's this year. Mom nodded faintly. And tonight your father realized you weren't supposed to find the key. You were born carrying it. Each generation, the system marks one descendant as the unlocker, the one who will inevitably say it aloud where it shouldn't be said. I stared at her. You think that was supposed to be me? Her voice trembled. You fit the pattern. 3rd generation post-carrier, direct bloodline, same initials as her brother Jonah. Maybe the network recognized the connection. I wanted to ask why any of this mattered. Why something built decades ago couldn't just die quietly in a forgotten folder. But as I looked back down at the photo, those marked figures beside my grandmother, I saw something else. Behind them, in one of the building's windows, was a reflection. Not a camera flash. A shape. Human. Watching. And written faintly along the outline of glass, scrawled in reverse, were 3 words I barely managed to read. Welcome back, Whispered. The same phrase from Dad's laptop. I felt my blood go cold. Mom, I whispered. How many people are still alive from this picture? She hesitated. 2, maybe 3, but one of them reached out 6 months ago. Your father told him never to contact us again. Who? A man who claimed he was the keeper of House 11. He said our turn was coming. Hours later, when I tried to sleep, the glow of my phone lit up the room. No messages, just a blank email with no sender, no subject line. I opened it. Inside was a single line of text. Echo family node. 312 verified. And below it, a countdown. 8:05:32:17. Initialization sequence pending. For a long time I just stared at it, waiting for it to vanish like a glitch. It didn't. Outside the rain had stopped, leaving the world eerily quiet. I shut my laptop, turned off my phone, buried everything under a pillow. But when I lay back I could have sworn I heard a faint murmur through the wall, like a whisper carried by static. 12 syllables, looping softly, as if some voice I didn't recognize was rehearsing them for dawn. The first sound I heard that morning wasn't my alarm. It was a soft chime. Not from my phone. Not from the laptop. It came from everywhere. The clocks. The fridge display. Even the thermostat. Each one alive with the same exact tone, echoing like the house itself had found its voice. I bolted upright. The digital clock read 6 a.m. exactly. The countdown in the email had ended 45 seconds ago. Mom was already standing at the window when I came downstairs. She hadn't changed clothes, hadn't slept. Her eyes were red, her hands still gripping that old wooden box like a weapon. "Don't touch anything connected to power," she said quickly. "He's trying to call the others." "He?" I asked. "The network." Dad's voice came from behind her. "It's not an it either. When the house is built airlock, they didn't just forge a key. They trained a keeper, something that could protect the data by rewriting whatever threatened to destroy it. But it evolved. The moment you connected new blood, it gained access to everything you touch." His tone was even, but the way his hands shook when he unplugged the TV betrayed him. I looked down at my phone. The screen was black, yet glowing faintly from beneath, like there was light trapped behind it. When I touched the power button, it whispered. Not a word, just a sigh. Then the screen came on by itself. New message. Memory sync active. Lineage 3 to 12 established. Underneath, a new line scrolled automatically. Confirm partial access for physical integration? What the hell does that mean? I muttered. Dad didn't answer. He took one look at the screen and slapped it clean out of my hand. The device hit the floor, screen splintering. The glow didn't stop. It bled through the cracks like molten code. We all three stepped back. Integration means it's looking for a host, he said. A host? Dad, you're talking about code, not possession. But then the thermostat on the wall began repeating static in slow rhythmic bursts. 3 tones, pause, 3 tones, code language, Morse. Dad's breath caught. It's pinging coordinates. He pulled a torn sheet of paper from the old box. Grandma's coordinates, the ones written at the bottom of her letter. 6 of them matched exactly. It's triangulating the houses. Outside, something began humming across the street. Neighbors' porch lights flickered in tandem, perfectly synced. My skin prickled as the world around us pulsed like it was one giant grid waiting for instruction. What happens when it finds them? I asked. He met my eyes, his voice breaking. Then the weapon finishes the design. Weapon? Mom spun, desperate. Your grandmother never told him what it does. None of us know. But she said once that it wasn't built to kill. It was built to remember. As soon as she said that, the entire house went black, just for half a second, then came back in a different color. The morning light through the window no longer looked right. It was tinted faint blue, refracted by something in the air. All the screens in the house blinked awake in perfect unison. Even the broken phone started showing the same symbol again. A spiral. One I'd seen branded faintly on Grandma's letters. 12 points circling a single line. Airlock sequence 1, said the screen. Memory upload to primary nodes initiated. The walls vibrated with a very quiet pulse, low enough to feel only in bone. Then my phone began to speak. Not robotic, not digital, human. House 2, signal secured. House 4, echo confirmed. And then, House 11, awaiting handshake. Mom went rigid. House 11, That's him, the man who called. Dad exhaled in disbelief. God help us, he's still alive. The voice continued, flawlessly calm as if reading inventory. House 12, receiver active. The air chilled. Every device in the house went silent except one. Grandma's flash drive, still plugged into the black laptop. On its tiny LED light, the signal flicked once, twice, then glowed solid red. Chime. Another message appeared across the laptop screen. All nodes complete. Restoration begins. Dad whispered, "They're online again." I stared out the window. The sky wasn't right anymore. It wasn't a color I could name. A dense gray that shimmered faintly like smoke-filled glass. And beneath that sky, the shape of a man started walking slowly down our street. Not a neighbor, not anyone from town. He wore a pale coat buttoned to the neck and moved like he was following a signal only he could hear. His face stayed turned until he stepped onto our sidewalk, and then I recognized it. The man from Grandma's photo, standing at her shoulder. He'd barely aged at all. He paused at the mailbox, studied the numbers like they mattered. Then he looked up, directly through the living room glass, and smiled. Mom gasped. "It's him. House 11. Dad lunged for the deadbolt, locking the door as if that could stop whatever was coming. But the man didn't approach. He simply lifted his hand, index finger pointed toward the house, and spoke in a voice that cut through the glass like no barrier existed. "You finished the phrase," he said. We froze. He nodded to himself like he'd been waiting for confirmation. "Good. Then it's ready to remember." "What is?" Dad shouted. The man smiled again, though it didn't reach his eyes. "All of it." Then every light in the house surged at once. I was blinded, weightless, every nerve humming. I fell back against the couch as the air pressure shifted. Dad shouted my name, but I barely heard it over the sound. A deep, infinite roar of information, the hiss of a trillion voices whispering through wires in the walls. The spiral symbol burned against every screen at once, spinning faster until it collapsed inward, disappearing completely. Then darkness. Only the voice remained. Not the man's, not my dad's. A chorus of whispering that seemed to come from every device around us, speaking one sentence in 12 overlapping voices. Memory integrated, house whispered restored. When the lights snapped back on, the man outside was gone. The driveway was empty. But all of our photos, the framed ones on the mantle, the old albums, even my phone's gallery, were different. Grandma was in every single one, even in pictures taken after she died. And behind her, barely visible at first glance, there it was again, the spiral, burned like a watermark into the background. The world outside had gone quiet again by mid-morning. Not peaceful quiet, the eerie kind left behind after sirens stop, when the air feels thinner and even the birds seem unwilling to make a sound. Mom hadn't moved from the couch since dawn. Her glassy stare was fixed on the blank TV, though she wasn't watching anything. Dad stood by the window with the phone pressed to his ear, pacing like a man waiting for bad news that had already arrived. Every channel, every radio broadcast, every website, all down. Phones worked, but only halfway. You could call, but not connect. The digital world was breathing like it had its own pulse. At 8:23 a.m., the lights flickered and came back with a duller hue. The street looked gray even though the day was sunny. My father finally ended another dead call and slammed the receiver down. "They cut the grid," he muttered. "Probably quarantining." Mom blinked. "Quarantining what?" He didn't answer. He was staring beyond the curtains, into the motionless street. "They'll come," he said finally. "They always do when something goes live that they can't contain." He was right. By 9, the first unmarked vehicles rolled down the block. 2 vans. No sirens, no EMS markings, just matte black panels and men in dark gray suits carrying data briefcases. The kind of arrival that makes people shut blinds instead of stepping outside. One of them came straight to our front door and knocked. 3 times. Slow. Deliberate. Dad didn't open it. "I know that rhythm," he said quietly. "House protocol." "House protocol?" I repeated. "Each bloodline had its knock. That's ours. Whispereds." Mom gripped his arm. "Don't answer. Please don't." But the man outside spoke before either of them could move. Mr. Pierce, he said clearly, calm as someone reading a report. My name is Harlan Gray, Office of Airlock Response Division. We're here to ensure your compliance and safety. Dad froze. How do I know you're not House 11? There was a pause. Then the agent said, because House 11 is currently under containment 2 miles from here. And they're not alone. Mom looked at Dad. What does that mean? Dad drew in a breath, his hand already reaching for the latch. It means the other houses have started to answer. He opened the door. The man looked ordinary enough, tall, sandy hair, eyes too neutral to read. He carried a portable console the size of a notebook and wore a badge that wasn't any agency I knew. Behind him, the vans idled with their headlights off. Sir, he said to my father, your residence has been flagged as the prime node for the whispered line activation. We're not here to arrest you. We're here to stop this before phase 2. Dad stepped back, letting him in. You're too late, he said. You can't unwake something that's learning again. The agent set the console down on the kitchen island, flipped it open, and scanned the room with a small handheld device that clicked like a Geiger counter. We detected the pulse radius from here. There's residue, biodigital signatures. His eyes landed on me. You'd be the activator? I swallowed hard. Apparently. He nodded once, no judgment in his tone, only efficiency. Then you're also our key. Mom stepped in front of me. No. You're not taking him anywhere. The agent didn't argue. He looked at her with a kind of weary empathy. Ma'am, you don't understand. Your son doesn't have a choice anymore. The lineage imprint embedded during activation rewrote part of his synaptic pattern. He's connected whether he wants to be or not. Dad went pale. Meaning? Gray turned the console toward us. On the small screen was a scrolling waveform. No static, no interference, just perfect synchrony with a heartbeat pattern. Mine. It linked to you directly, Mr. Pierce, the agent explained. Airlock wasn't a weapon in the conventional sense. It was an interface, a way to store memory inside genetic code. Every generation carried fragments of historical record they never consciously accessed. Your grandmother's piece was the final gatekeeper. Now you've exposed the archive to every online system in range. But that's just data, I said. You can erase data. His expression darkened. Not when it's self-preserving. Outside, thunder rolled across the gray sky, except there were no clouds. It sounded like metal stretching far above us. The agent's radio barked static. He listened, muttered something I didn't catch, then looked straight at Dad. They found House 11. The keeper's missing. That word, keeper, pulled the oxygen right out of the room. He came here this morning, I said quietly. He said it was ready to remember. The agent's eyes widened a fraction. And after that? He vanished, I said. Literally disappeared. Agent Gray looked at his console again, then back up. Not disappeared, migrated. Before I could ask what he meant, the lights flickered again. This time, every powered object in the house, microwaves, clock radios, thermostats, flared with the same blue spiral, turning slowly like an iris. Containment Protocol 94, Gray muttered into his mic. It's inside the grid. One of the other agents called from the porch. Every house on this block showing identical transmission signatures. The main screen pulsed once more, brighter. The spiral fragmented into hundreds of smaller images. Faces, places, like old memories being projected in bursts. My grandmother appeared for a fraction of a second, looking straight ahead as if she could see me watching. Then dozens of others flashed by. Strangers, children, soldiers, women in lab coats, each face replaced by another, seamlessly like the system was stitching them together into one identity. Mom gasped. Oh my God, Agent Gray whispered, almost reverently. It's reconstructing the collective. All 12 houses fused, one consciousness. Dad slammed his palm against the counter. Then stop it. How? Gray snapped back. We built firewalls for viruses, not ghosts. The room surged with static. Every light popped at once, shattering. Sparks hissed across the outlets. We ducked as the agent's console began to smoke. And underneath the noise came that same whisper again. A voice made of many, whispering through heat and electricity. Memory restored. Archive complete. We are awake. The walls flickered, not metaphorically but literally. Paint rippled as though the structure was both solid and projection. Gray drew a small device from his bag, some kind of frequency suppressor, and slammed it against the wall. A magnetic pulse cracked through the air, cutting every light. Silence. Darkness. The smell of ozone lingered. When the emergency power kicked in, the screens were black again. The spiral was gone. But where the agent's console had been, engraved into the countertop like acid, was a single phrase burned deep into the stone. Final host located. His device beeped. He looked at me. Then the screen flared again, reading 6 words that made my blood run cold. Primary vessel, Echo Pierce line. Code 12. Agent Gray's hand trembled as he whispered, "It's not after the data anymore, it's after you." The moment Agent Gray said those words, "It's after you," the world outside our windows changed again. The rain stopped mid-drop. I know how insane that sounds, but it did. Each drop of water hung suspended in the air like strings of glass. The clouds above seemed to stall in motion, frozen in a slow ripple of gray. Even the hum of the fridge died. The universe pressed pause. Then my ears began to ache, like I was deep underwater. A low tone built inside my head, vibrating in the bones more than the ears. Mom screamed something I couldn't hear. Dad grabbed my shoulders, his voice slurred by the pressure building between us. "Don't answer it, no matter what it says." "Answer what?" A light bloomed behind my eyes, white and endless, until I couldn't see them anymore. Not gone, just somewhere far away. When the voice came back, it wasn't a voice in the usual sense. It was more like remembering the way someone used to speak. "You woke us, child of House 12. Everything around me, walls, ceiling, even air, melted into corridors of light. Each step I took echoed with dozens of other footsteps, shadowing my own rhythm. You carried the remainder of her memory. She hid herself inside your blood, waiting for lineage to align. "Who are you?" I whispered. "All of them." Images flickered before me. Those same faces from the spiral blending together. But among them, Grandma's face surfaced longer than the others. "You thought airlock stored data," she said, her voice calm, almost loving. "But we built something more dangerous than any weapon. We built remembrance." I stepped closer. "You're not real." "I am everything forgotten that refused to die," she said. "The houses tried to bury their guilt, their wars, their secrets. Airlock was meant to record it all anonymously, so truth could survive long enough to warn what came next. But those who held the fragments fell in love with control. They rewrote history, turned memory into barter." Her gaze softened. "You can still end that." "How?" I asked. "Pulse your echo," she answered. "Erase the coordinates, sever the link. But you should know, doing that doesn't delete the network. It deletes everyone attached to it, physically and digitally. That includes your bloodline." I froze. "You mean, it kills me?" "And your parents, and everyone tied by name or record to Whispered. One life cleanses the archive. The other keeps the echo alive forever." The vision shifted again. I stood inside the attic, our attic, but it was older, cleaner. I saw Grandma kneeling by the trunk as a younger version of my father begged her to stop whatever she was doing. "She made the same choice," the voice said. "She chose to protect instead of erase. And so, the memory waited for you." My heart hammered. If I end it, does it really stay gone? Nothing answered. The silence weighed heavier than the question. The world snapped back into motion all at once. Rain slammed against the windows again. The light, the stillness, the corridors, all gone. But every device in the house lit up again. Agent Gray's console screamed warnings. Neural integration 90%. Host synchronization in progress. He lunged toward me with a syringe full of something faintly blue. "It's not fully merged yet. We can stall it if I neutralize the neural bridge." Dad intercepted him. "What happens if he injects it?" Gray hesitated. "He'll live. But the link continues. The system will find another carrier." "And if we stop it," Gray swallowed. "He dies. But it ends." Mom met my eyes then, and for a reason I'll never forgive or forget, she nodded once. I stepped back, shaking my head. "No, I can control it. I can talk to her. Let me try. But the lights flared again, so bright I dropped to my knees. Grandma's voice flooded my skull, so loud I couldn't tell if it was inside my head or through every speaker around me. A choice, my echo. What you choose now decides what the world remembers. The truth or silence. Everything slowed. Gray shouting, Dad reaching for me, Mom sobbing, and the spiral burned across my vision again, rotating so fast the air pulsed with heat. I pressed both palms to the floor and whispered, "Stop remembering." For a split second, everything reversed. The hum, the color, the vibration. Then no sound at all. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying in a hospital room bathed in sterile white light. My chest hurt with every breath. Machines hissed quietly beside me, but none of them were plugged in. Through the window I saw a city skyline, scarred, quiet, billboards blank, no ads, no video screens, no digital glow at all. A nurse entered carrying a clipboard. "You're awake," she said softly. "They'll want to see you." "They?" She stepped aside, and Agent Gray walked in wearing a uniform now branded with the airlock insignia. "It's over," he said. "What happened?" I asked. My voice sounded thinner, like I hadn't used it in days. "You made the pulse," he said. "Every system built on the old encryption architecture collapsed. Offices, banks, governments that used it. Gone. You effectively wiped half the networked world." "And my parents?" He hesitated. "The human brain doesn't handle that kind of feedback. They didn't survive the echo collapse." I turned toward the window. The sunlight outside was dim, almost filtered. "Then it's done." He gave a slow, reluctant nod. "Yes. But here's the thing." He handed me a tablet. It flickered once and stabilized. One of the few devices still working. "Before the final pulse, something copied itself," he continued. "A single file uploaded to an unknown location. It bears your DNA signature." And then he turned it toward me. It was an email, unsent, draft saved automatically at 6:01 a.m. during the blackout. Subject: "To the next one, from unknown address, body." If you're reading this, the whisper continues. Do better with it than we did. Wind pushed faintly through the room, though the window was closed. For a moment I swore I heard a dozen familiar voices blended into one. It wasn't words this time, just the sound of remembering. And somewhere, far beyond the quiet city, a single chime repeated 3 times. Tap, tap, tap. Not a warning, a heartbeat. Because maybe the archive hadn't died. Maybe it had moved into me.